All right, y'all. Welcome to this analysis. We are doing a analysis of Double Masters 2022, or Double Masters Electric Boogaloo. This is going to be a year of the changes that occurred from 2022 to 2023. It's, I think, is a important baseline to kind of think about Commander Masters, which is coming out in about a week or 2 weeks from now. So the assumption for this video is Commander Masters will probably move somewhat similar to how Double Masters has moved. And I think that is a relevant and interesting set of questions. So let's see what happened to prices, both of the sealed product as well as the individual cards, and what cards moved, and which ways did they move. So without further ado, let's get into the 2022 expected value. So it looks like just a downward chart. The expected value of a mythic was around $20 at pre-release, and the rares were about $473. The pack EV was about $13 and some change. EV was about $326 of a box. So if you bought a box at $350, which is basically like at day of release or slightly after, and you didn't buy into the hype, which was around $400, you pretty much broke even. You got close to about $23. And this analysis excludes all variants, foils, extended arts, textured foils, etc. It's primarily just looking at the draft boxes. So keep in mind that this is about the draft boxes and not the collector boxes, which have a much more complicated collation. So the evaluation I did is I went into Excel and I downloaded all of the cards and all their prices, and I did this at release, and then a year later I did the value for 2023. And we can see how it changes. So in 2023, we saw the prices decrease significantly from basically $21 per mythic to $15, and from $4 to $250 for rares. The EV went down significantly, down from $13 to $3. And the EV of the box went to $182, with a current box profit of about negative $62. Current boxes are around $250 or so, plus or minus. I mean, depending on deals and what site you're getting it at. This is just from TCG Player. So I rounded the number to around the nearest 10. So we'll see kind of what happened. This is Pound Town. Population U. It was pretty much a bloodbath. Everything lost value, like in absolute terms, right? So like you used to get $326 of value, now you're getting about $180. So it went down by about half. So we saw a total drop in value by 44%. That is just pretty brutal, honestly. If you were trying to do this as an investment product and you bought on release, then you are pretty awful off, right? Both in the sense of the cards that you opened have decreased in value, as well as the actual sealed product itself. In fact, the sealed product is even worse to open now than it was at release. So let's look at the best investments. There's two cards that actually went up. Dockside Extortionist and Animar Soul of Elements. Dockside went from 50 to 58 for, a modest, like 13% gain or so. And Animar went up 75 cents. So these cards are just pretty big fan favorites, especially in casual EDH, as well as in Dockside Extortionist in CEDH. Animar Soul of Elements is just a fun commander card that people tend to like, and it has a slightly better art, in my opinion, than previous printings. And it is of note that the foil etched version of this card is like $40. So, because it's the most premium version. If you look at, for example, like Secret Layers and similar like that, there's been no Secret Layers, and there has been no other printings that have been foily and cool, of a cool treatment than Animar. So, those are the cards that went up. What about the ones that went down? The worst investments. Thrumming Stone. This one was terrible. It went from a $36 card or so down to $2.50, almost bulk. And it is largely due to the fact that it's a pretty good meme card that would be fun in like casual 60 card, as well as a very specific meme commander decks. And because it was only printed in Cold Snap and then it was reprinted here, the demand for this card is basically non-existent. So they printed a ton of them at rare, and no one wanted it. And no one wanted it at $40, and people don't really care for it because you only need one of it to do the meme deck, and the meme deck is only fun for the 2 times you play it. Imperial Seal, Phyrexian Altar. Imperial Seal went down. It had no further reprints, but the price was so high that it only had place to go down, especially when you have alternatives like Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor, which are strictly better versions of Imperial Seal, and they're cheaper. So the price action kept pushing it down despite its limited availability as effectively a single print run in Portal and Double Masters. So that one saw a large dollar decrease, but it's still pretty good. Phyrexian Altar has seen multiple reprints and went down significantly. I think the price here is actually even worse because of recent reprints in standard sets. This number should actually be like $3. Mana Vault, I think this is all taken from TCG medians, so some of these prices might be a little different depending on what you're looking at. Mana Vault, you saw a decrease of about $20. Ulamog, Infinite Gyre, Food Chain, Curtain Crossroads. A lot of these cards have seen multiple reprints and are like mythic. So dollar for dollar, if you owned these cards 1 year ago, they've decreased in price pretty significantly by about a $20 bill. So think about that for a second before like buying into big cards, right? And expect that if they are an expensive card, they will, and they have been reprinted, you'll likely see like a pretty substantial change in value. So let's talk about yield, right? Just because something went down doesn't necessarily mean it's awful, right? So one of the things that helps prevent depreciation was playability in modern and casual EDH. Mana Drain and Damnation specifically had seen very small amounts of depreciation. Mana Drain staying pretty steady throughout the year. Damnation has been printed so many times, but it's so ubiquitous and so usable that players still want it, and it really hasn't changed. It changed $1 from 16, and that can just be daily noise, right? Allosaurus Shepherd saw a small decrease. That is playable in Legacy Elves, Modern, and similar, and it's just quite a solid elf key piece. Teferi's Protection, casual EDH staple. Divine Visitation, another big staple. Seeing, marginal changes. These are the only, and then a lot of staples had moved down by about 20%. Wrenn and Six, Cavern of Souls, Sensei's Divining Top, Season of Pyromancer. All of these are big staples in constructed formats that are pretty good. But they're expensive cards. If you look at this, right, we saw on average a net yield of negative 44%. And these are negative 20%. So like, relatively speaking, these have been better cards to own than other cards within the set. And that includes Imperial Seal, like, surprisingly enough. And so, like, we're about to see, like, what happens to the lower priced cards. And this is the card value of death, right? These are the cards that went from a playable, spendable card to bulk rare. So of the 51 cards that were under $10 on release, 35 of them are just bulk. And I put the price of them down to 0. Because effectively, if a card's $2 or under, you can't really sell it or buy list it for anything more than a couple cents. And you would need to do it effectively at a penny a card. And so its only real value is in trade value, which it's really hard to find someone who will specifically want a Creekwook Liege or a Freak of the Many or multiple 1,000-year storms, right? So about 69% of those cards that were under $10 are now rares. So if you are targeting cards to buy for a commander deck that are within $5 to $10, it might be pretty smart to wait a little bit longer, because those are the cards that you can actually see the greatest value by waiting to purchase. But of course, if you've got to play the card, just play the card. It's going to be a good time. So these are the quick conclusions. High playability is not necessarily an indicative of future performance. So just because it's played a lot doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to keep its value. In fact, we see generally speaking that the reprint does negatively impact all value for over the course of a year, on average by 44%, but if it's more playable by about 20% is a pretty standard decrease from the reprints. Commander cards protect value, but only if it has casual appeal. So if you look at some of the cards here, right, like Mana Vault, you saw a huge decrease, right, a 30% decrease in value, and it's a CEDH card, so it's not just power level, right? But you look at a card like Food Chain, it lost half its value. But then you look at cards like Divine Visitation, right, or Teferi's Protection, which are much more casually geared cards, have remained quite playable, right, and have maintained their value. Panharmonicon is not a staple, but has maintained its value relative to Food Chain, right? So, and even one of the worst ones on this list of good cards, good relative being, was Force of Negation, which is a clear, like, modern and CEDH staple, which you don't necessarily see free counterspells on your more casual tables. Niche and meme cards are extremely painful. I think you can especially see this in Thrumming Stone and the sub $5 cards that are just kind of bulk cards now. Future reprints have compounded depreciation, and that's mostly just because if Double Masters was the only reprint, that's the only effect, but you can see that sort of effect amplified if you see other cards as well. And the final one is anything under $10 is highly likely to turn into bulk within a year, and is one of the best cards to actually purchase on the back end, after a year or so. And keep in mind that this was a timetable of cards where I took the prices and just compared them year over year from TCG Player median pricing. So I think that is something that's really interesting. And if you're looking at Commander Masters, I would not think that Commander Masters is so different to not think about this cards when you're buying singles, as well as if you're buying sealed product. So if you want to buy packs and open them and enjoy them, I highly recommend that. It's a fun time, and you're going to enjoy your time if that is what you enjoy, just cracking up the paper. However, financially speaking, you have to understand that this is something that you're doing for fun and that you are paying money to enjoy, because the year-over-year return of this stuff is not investable. It's not a high quality investment where you're seeking a return on it. You can see every single card, almost every single card with the exception of 2, has decreased in value. So even opening 2 packs, you have pretty much guaranteed losses on a year-over-year basis. And if you're looking at this and you're like, you know what, I'm okay spending $60 and buying a box and ripping it and having a good time with it, or drafting with my friends, that is a valuable experience, and I think that is an important part. And being an informed consumer allows you to make those decisions of where you value and how you want to allocate your resources to play the game in a happier and more beneficial way for you. So I hope this video was informative, and if you liked it, please follow some more. I'm going to put another video about Commander Masters and its set EV, which is actually somewhat surprising, in a subsequent video, and I'll look forward to the next time I see you. Have a good one.